about to do is you're going to see as I unpack a coaching demo that I did with one of my clients, Pam Featherstone, during a module of the Certified Clarity Coach Training Program. So I was doing this in front of an audience. So as you watch this, imagine you're sitting in an audience of 30 or 40 other coaches and trainers and consultants and people who are aspiring to do that. Or the other group who were here, we had a group of about 30 people watching via live stream from around the world. So maybe you're watching this from wherever you are in the world. And what I'm going to be doing is pausing it from time to time to unpack what I'm doing with Pam, why I'm asking the questions I'm asking, what I'm responding to, but also where I'm going next with it. And the other thing you'll notice is that from time to time, as well as me pausing the video while we unpack it, I actually stop the coaching session in the group and talk to the audience while I let Pam do what I call cook for a little while. So you'll see that going on as well. So yeah, and like I said, this is taken from a module of the Clarity Coach Training Program. And the reason Pam had come on that program is she's already a super successful coach. She's one of Action Coach's top coaches. She was the first one to do $1 million of revenue from coaching in the UK. And so she was already very, very successful and impactful, but she came on the program because she wanted to have a more profound transformational impact in her clients' lives. She also wanted to get something for herself, and that's what this coaching session was about. Like so many coaches and change workers and people helpers, Pam really, really amazing in supporting her clients, but sometimes didn't take such good care of herself. And so in this session, we're looking at weight loss and self-care and exercise and all that kind of stuff. So here we go. So Pam, I'm just getting relaxed. What would you like? What would you like? What would you like to have happen? What's going on for you? What would you like coaching on? So right there, the very first thing I'm doing in a coaching session is I'm setting a direction. I'm inviting my client to set a direction for the coaching, finding out what they want. And then what you'll hear me do is listen to what Pam's saying and then ask clarifying questions to kind of get more clear about what's going on so that I understand. Because what I always want to do with my client is right at the beginning of the session, once we're, kind of connected and stuff, I want to find out what do they actually want coaching on. So we're both on the same page. And I'm like, okay, I know what you want. I can help you get it. And so that's what I'm doing at this point. Oh, can you hold that right up to your mouth? Thanks.
In my business, I'm really successful, and whenever I set myself any business goals, I always achieve them.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to me personally, I don't achieve the goals I set myself, and I always feel that whenever I'm doing anything, like I want to get healthier and lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
I feel really guilty giving myself any time for myself. So I look after everybody else in a really great way. And then when it comes to me, I feel really guilty about it. And I feel like I set myself up for disaster all the time personally.
Now, right here, so I've been listening to Pam, and what you need to know, I'm kind of staring at her stuff, but I'm listening as deeply as possible. I'm not really thinking too much about what she's saying. I'm listening and trying to get a sense of who she is, where she's coming from, how she sees reality. So I'm not thinking about what am I going to do with her or anything like that. Just listening as deeply as I can. And a couple of things that jump out to me right away is that she's drawing a distinction between business goals and personal goals. It's like a split. And I also noticed that she says she's feeling really guilty. And right away, I notice, like, when I hear people saying they feel guilty or basically talking about feelings, I'm always curious about where do they believe those feelings are coming from? Because right away I'm thinking, oh, well, that's got something to do with this. And then the other thing is when she says I set myself up for disaster, I'm kind of like in my head, I'm kind of like, well, Chernobyl, that was a disaster. The Nepal earthquake, that was a disaster. But what we're talking about, it's not a disaster. So it's kind of interesting to me. So I go in to gather some information about that. What do you mean by disaster?
Like not achieving what I set out to achieve.
Got it. Okay, so now you'll see me do this regularly. I'll clarify what I've heard from the person. So I know that I don't know what they mean by things. It's easy to think because we, talk and listen with people all day. It's easy to think that we know what they're talking about, but all too often we don't. So I'll often clarify stuff. So next, I'm gonna go into the whole kind of split between business and personal goals and see what's going on there. So I'm just going to play some stuff back to you. I heard. Now, the other thing to know at this point, I really don't know what's going on for Pam, but I know where I'm headed with her. Like, I want to get, at the moment, I'm doing what I call calibrating. And calibrating is finding out what's going on for the other person, finding out what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they're believing, kind of finding out how they make up reality. How do they understand reality to work? But as well as calibrating Pam, I always say the most important person to calibrate is yourself because your own body, mind, spirit, however you think about it, that's the instrument that you're listening and asking questions and talking and acting with. So it's really important to know what's going on for you as well. So I'm both trying to stay on top of what's going on for Pam, but what's going on for me too. And a big part of what I'm doing as I calibrate, I'm trying to find my way into a feeling of connection with her. Because my job as a coach is to help create the conditions for Pam to have the insights and realizations that are going to make a real world difference to her on a go forward basis in her life. Like that's what I want to do with you if I'm coaching you. I want to make a real world difference to you, but how I'm going to do that is create the conditions for you to have insight and realization. And so I found connection, the felt experience of connection, as well as getting someone's world to be very, very helpful with that. You say, I always achieve my business goals, but I don't achieve the goals I set for myself personally. But I was confused because the goals you set for yourself in your business, are they not for you personally?
Yeah, but also for my clients as well.
Well, and so if you do your business effectively, then your clients benefit.
Yeah, and I do too.
Okay. But would your clients not benefit from you being healthier?
Massively, and this is one of the battles I have in my head because I can tell myself logically that it's the right thing to do to put my own oxygen mask on first and be the best version of me, but I don't actually feel it. There's like a massive gap between what I logically tell myself and actually what I feel inside.
Now, here's the interesting thing here is so I was going to find out because to me it seems logical that she's taking better care of herself. She's in a better position to support clients. That's a good thing. So I kind of play that out for her. But she goes, well, actually, I already tell myself that, but I don't believe that. I don't feel it. And she says there's a massive gap between what I logically tell myself and what I actually feel inside. Now, I hear that a lot from people, I know it, or I know that intellectually. You might have had this yourself. I know that intellectually, but I don't get it. I know that intellectually, but it's not making any difference for me. Well, the reason people have that is because of what I call the outside in misunderstanding. So as soon as I hear her say that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I get that's like. Now, I then start, what you're going to hear me do next is kind of play that back to her and then start to generalize it. Now, why am I generalizing it? So, by generalizing, I mean, kind of let her know that kind of everyone does that, that everyone's kind of the same as that. Now, why am I doing that? Well, it occurred to me in the moment because I know that when someone's outside in about something, and if someone comes to me with a problem like this, I know they're outside in about it. And by outside in, I just mean they believe that their feelings are coming from somewhere other than their psychology, other than thought in the moment, other than the principle of thought taking form in the moment. They think it's coming from the past or the future or their body or their personality or food or exercise or other people or their bank balance or whatever. And as soon as someone's in that, they go outside in, well, they feel separate. They feel separate from life. They feel separate from other people. They feel separate from themselves. And they feel like it's only happening to them. They feel like they're all alone in this. So, what I notice is that right away, as soon as she tells me this, I start to point to the fact that this is something that everyone experiences. And watch as you listen to this. Notice if you don't experience it too, if it's something similar to what we all know. So that's where I go next.
Well, now I heard you say, and I think that's for all of us. Like, if I could just, go to the doctor and say, "Hey, doc," and he goes, "Hey, Jamie, you need to lose a couple of stone. You need to exercise every day. Stop smoking. Stop eating biscuits. Da 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 da." I'll be like, "Oh, thanks, doc. I'll go take care of that now." That would make the doc's job real easy. But I think everyone's like that. I bet everyone could write a list of the things they think they should be doing and shouldn't be doing and that sort of thing. But actually, like to me, in a way, that's kind of at the heart of real change, isn't it? The difference between something making sense, in our heads and something actually coming to life in our day-to-day living. So yeah, it's in a way it's the perfect example. This is at the heart of the matter, is we all have things that we kind of think we should do, but that we struggle with.
Now, here's something kind of interesting. I just noticed, you may notice that my voice got a little softer, maybe I got a little more relaxed and reflected. Well, what I noticed when I was doing this was even as I heard Pam say what she said about she knows logically, but she's not feeling it, and I talked to her, I kind of just started to feel closer to her. I started to feel more connected. Yeah, just closer to her. And as I did, I kind of, this will sound funny, but I felt kind of softer on the inside, and my voice got a little slower and that sort of thing. So here's what I wasn't doing. I wasn't going, okay, now I will slow my voice down and that sort of thing. It just kind of happened as my feeling shifted, as I felt more of that connection with Pam. So now I'm going to ask her a reflective question. I'm going to ask her, and by the way, it's not like I go, okay, first ask this, then ask that, then ask the other. This is what's occurring to me as I'm listening to her. I'm curious about, why do you suppose it's like this? Like, given that this is something that all of us can relate to, we've all got things where we know we should do one thing, but actually we do another. There's this kind of gap. I want to find out, why do you think it's like that? Why is it that someone would have something that kind of makes sense on paper, but they can't get themselves to do it? Like, if that's at the heart of the matter, and if that's at the heart of real change, why is it that we sometimes struggle with that? So that's where I want to find the reason I'm asking Pam is I want to find out how that looks to her. And my guess is she may get kind of reflective, or maybe she won't. So we'll see.
So why do you think it is that a person would have something that kind of makes sense on paper, but they don't seem to be able to get themselves to do it?
Part of it, I feel really guilty spending the time on myself.
Now, here's the interesting thing. I asked Pam this kind of what we might call a philosophical question, a question about, like, what do you think? Why is it that people, because I've said this is going on for all 7 billion of us. Why is it that all 7 billion of us have this? But Pam didn't really hear that. She answered kind of for herself. She just threw out this thing. I feel really guilty spending time on myself. Well, remember when she first answered way back at the beginning, and she talked about feelings of guilt and that sort of thing. So here it is now. She says, I feel really guilty spending time on myself. So she didn't answer my question. I remember that. but I'm for the moment, I'm not going to ask it again. I'm going to go with what she's given me. So she said, I feel really guilty spending time on myself. So I want to find a little bit more after about that. I want to find out what she means by that. Because remember, I know that I don't know what she means. So I'm going to find out. I'm going to get some specifics.
Well, it's funny you say guilty. I was going to come back to that. Now, when you so you feel guilty at the thought of spending time on yourself, or guilty while you're spending time on yourself, or guilty afterwards, before,
No.
during, or after?
No, during.
During, okay. So basically, if I understand correctly, you might go, okay, I'm going to take time for myself, but then while you're taking the time for yourself, it actually feels uncomfortable. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, start to feel more stressed, and then it's harder to have the right level of commitment to it.
Yeah. Well, now, what do you make of that? Oh, can you hold the mic right up in front of you?
Yeah.
Now, this question, I often ask people that the kind of question, and I'm kind of trying to go for another shot at that philosophical, reflective view. So the first time I asked her, why do you suppose it is that people would, have something that look logical on paper but not actually do it? She didn't answer it. So now I'm going to have another go of it. So I ask, what do you make of that? Which is kind of asking a similar thing. And then I give her some quick microphone training, and then rather than just saying, what do you make of that again, I give her a little more detail about what I'm asking. Now, again, the reason why, when I'm working with a client, they already have their idea of how the world works. And the reason the wheels are coming off in one way or another, that things aren't working for them, or they're stuck, or it's, not going the way they want it to, is because their idea of how the world works isn't actually how it works. There's a mismatch. So I want to get her looking, like, I want to hear her theory about that and see what happens. So that's what we're going to get next.
I'll show you. I'll give you here's microphone technique. Like that. You can see, like that. I'll show all them too. Like that, so you're like speaking right into it.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.
Training finished?
Yeah. So, and I'm just pausing sometimes because I'm really kind of wanting to kind of feel my way into it. So what I was wondering is, why do you suppose a person who's doing the stuff that they know is going to basically benefit everyone because it's taking care of themselves and making them, and putting their own oxygen mask on first so that they can be of service and that sort of thing, why would they feel guilty doing that?
I feel like I need to be working.
Got it.
Now, here's the interesting thing. So again, we had the guilt thing at the front, then the feeling guilty at the gym. Now Pam's saying, I feel like I need to be working. Well, Pam has a confusion about what her feelings are giving her information about. The fact is, her feelings are letting her know about thought in the moment and nothing else. They don't know about working, they don't know about the gym, they don't know about anything else. But she's confused about that. And that is at the heart of what she's been struggling with. My whole premise is based on two things. People get confused about where their experience is coming from and who they really are. So my aim in this session with Pam is to put her straight on both of those in a way that actually makes a difference. So that's where I'm going to go next. And I want to, rather than telling her that, I want to find out what again, I'm rather than teaching or telling or educating, I'm still trying to find my way into a connection and find out where to work with Pam on something. So I'm still trying to find out from her how she sees it, asking questions, getting curious, seeing how she experiences, how she understands reality. So that's where I'm going next.
So like you should be working.
Yeah.
Now that feeling of I should be working or I need to be working, So that feeling of guilt. What do you think that feeling is letting you know about?
I've got no idea.
Well, I'm going to draw a picture. That's my answer to everything. When in doubt, draw a picture.
Now, often I'll use pictures, diagrams, drawings, and things like that just to help clarify things, to kind of map it out for people so they can have a look at it. And it also kind of externalizes it. Sticking it up on the board like that, it allows them to be able to see it. And it also allows them to tell me if I've got it wrong. You know, words are, it's amazing to be able to talk with people and listen to people. But when you draw something out or put it up, it just gives another way of someone thinking about it and evaluating it and so on. So that's what I'm doing next.
And I'm going to make some guesses, but you let me know if I'm right. So we'll call this Pam's theory of guilty feelings. So if I was guessing, I would guess that the feeling, it's like it's letting you know about the work that's not getting done.
Now, here's the thing. I asked Pam where she thinks those feelings are coming from. She says no idea. But I know she's got some ideas. It's not that she wasn't telling me the truth. It's just like she's also kind of confused about it. So I have an instinct about where they're coming from, a prediction, if you like. So a guess, you could call it. So I'm testing my guess with Pam. And I'll often make guesses with clients, and sometimes they're wrong and sometimes they're right. But the thing is, when you're making guesses and finding out if they were correct or not, you're learning. So one of the things that's going on for me all the time that I'm coaching someone, I'm learning. I'm learning about them. I'm learning about myself. I'm learning about my understanding of life. You're learning all the time. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So undone work. Anything else?
Yeah, I feel selfish putting myself first.
So it's letting you know about yourself and selfishness and where you're putting yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. So, well, let me check. In terms of the work not getting done, is there anything about what might happen if that work doesn't get done in there?
No.
Okay, cool, good. So you get a guilty feeling, and it seems like it's giving you information about work that needs doing, about what you're
So now I'm just playing it back to her. Again, I'm wanting to make sure that she's kind of keeping track with me. So I'm just playing back what we've just talked about.
being like, so about you, what you like, and about where you're putting yourself in the kind of in the pecking order and or in the who gets taken care of order.
Now, so I've been listening to Pam. I've been checking my understanding, clarifying certain things, and now we've got this thing that she's laid out, and the feelings, feeling guilty, that sort of thing. This is something she's mentioned several times. So now I'm gonna I'm gonna do my first little bit of what I call education, and when I say education, I mean in the original sense of the word. It's from educe, which means to lead out from within. So my job, remember, is to help create the space where my client has insights and realizations. It comes out from within. So I'm going to try and share a little bit with her, tell her a little bit about what I know, a tiny little bit of education, and see if it lands for her. So that's where we're going next.
Okay. What I'm going to suggest, Pam, is that those guilty feelings don't know about any of that stuff. They don't know that there's even such a thing as work.
Right.
The feelings of guilt are an absolutely reliable signal letting you know that in that moment, you're wearing a pair of guilty goggles.
Right.
Like that's, like right now you're feeling amused, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is really important. So, this is a metaphor, obviously. I'm using the metaphor of virtual reality goggles to let people understand this notion of the principle of thought. So, you're always living in the feeling of thought in the moment, which is another way of saying you're always living in the feeling of the virtual reality goggles you're wearing. So, I use this metaphor with Pam, and I notice real time that she starts laughing. So, calibration. I notice she starts laughing. So, she hasn't been laughing that much in this session. All of a sudden, she starts laughing and chuckling. So I use that, like, because there's nothing more powerful than using something that someone's experiencing in real time. So that's what's going on right here.
Okay, that feeling of amusement lets you know that you're perceiving the world with slightly amused goggles.
Yeah.
Okay? Now that's not because of what I said. I could say that to 10 people, and one of them might get outraged and punch me in the nose because they were wearing outraged goggles, or someone else might think, oh, that's stupid, and so they're wearing dismissive goggles. So your feelings are there to let you know what goggles, and they're sort of like VR goggles, what VR goggles you're wearing at the moment. Are you wearing guilty VR goggles? Are you wearing peaceful VR goggles? Are you wearing accomplishment VR goggles? Are you wearing contented?
Right. No.
Now, here's the interesting thing right here. What I noticed as I was talking to Pam, again, it started to quiet down. We started to get more connected. So, again, calibration. I'm noticing that in myself and in Pam. But then, and I was saying sort of rhetorical question, that was saying, the feelings letting you know about the goggles you're wearing, the amusement goggles, the contented goggles. But then Pam thought I was actually asking her, so she's answered it. She said, "What? Right now?" She thinks I'm asking her. So I clarify that.
Well,
And
in
then,
any moment, your feelings they're there to let you know what kind of goggles you're wearing. Like, I'll give you an example. Right now, in this moment, I'm feeling a little bit connected to you. Like, a little bit more connected than I was even 30 seconds ago. So I'm kind of like, oh, cool. I'm wearing connection goggles. Now, I love wearing connection goggles because when I'm wearing connection goggles, I feel close to people and I feel warm, and I get a sense of the truth of who they really are and of who I really am and what life really is. So I really love wearing connection goggles. And that feeling of connection is just letting me know that that's the lens that I'm looking at life through. Now here's the funny thing. That feeling of connection doesn't know anything about the fact that we're in a big room or that there's a bunch of people here or anything like that. It just knows what kind of goggles I'm wearing. So I used to be terrified of public speaking. So if you put me at the front of a group of people, if 20 years ago I had suddenly woke up and I'm sitting here, I'd be like, fucking hell! And I would have been terrified. I would have instantly put on a pair of terror goggles. I would have been really scared. But that wouldn't have been letting me know about the room or anything, because otherwise I would be feeling that now, and I don't. I'm feeling connection. So your feelings, they're really important. They're there to let you know what goggles you're wearing. But we get confused and we believe they're telling us about what we're looking at.
Now, so I've just been in the first chunk of the session, I was doing calibration, connection, calibration, connection, calibration, connection. And then we get to this point where all of a sudden Pam and I are feeling much more connected. And she's, asking questions about the point I'm making. So I'm really kind of doing quite a lot of education. I've been talking to her, but notice it's still quite quiet because I'm feeling very connected to her. So I'm just enjoying that feeling of wanting to share it with her, so to speak, like to be in that space with her. But having done that, I've said a bunch of stuff. I've been talking quite a lot over the last minute. Now I want to find out what she's actually heard. So I'm going to find out. By the way, by the way, finding out what she's heard, that's calibration because I've said a bunch of stuff and often, I'll say stuff and people are like, oh, yeah, great, I get it. I want to find out what they've actually heard rather than just assume. Because again, we don't know what each other is saying. So I want to find out what she's actually heard. So let's find out.
Now, what are you hearing in what I'm saying, Pam?
It's my choice what goggles I'm wearing.
Well, now let me go a little further. What did you hear about it? It's your choice.
Now here's the interesting thing. So Pam, I'm so glad I checked. Pam interpreted what I was saying as that meant it's her choice what goggles she's wearing. So I'm like, oh no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying something subtly but profoundly different. So I want to just find out a little more, do a little more calibration and find out what gave her that impression.
What goggles you're wearing?
Because the situation's the same, and it's just what lens I'm choosing to look through.
Now, here's what I'll say, and this may sound a bit dubious, so feel free to take your time over. I don't think you're choosing.
Now, here's the thing. A lot of people in the personal development world and the coaching world and that sort of thing saying we're choosing our feelings, we're choosing. I don't think there's any truth to that. So I'm going to clear that up. But I'm bearing in mind, so I've got nice connection with Pam. So I'm saying something that it might fly in the face of everything she believes and has learned and that sort of thing. So I want to be careful as I say it. So I'm going to lay it out for her. So I say, I don't think I'm choosing.
I don't think I'm choosing. I don't think, like the other day when I woke up in the morning and I was like lying in bed last Friday or whenever it was, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so good. I feel so amazing. Now, given the choice, I wouldn't only wake up feeling like that every day. I'd feel that way all day, no matter what was going on, under all circumstances. It's like, Jamie has just received some really bad news. Hit me. I'm feeling great. Why are you feeling great? I just chose to feel great all the time. Now, I'm not sure that that's a thing. Like, I don't, and I used to be in the choose how you feel and feel it game. That was my job. And I knew many of the trainers in that world too, many of the top NLP trainers and stuff. None of them could choose how they felt in any consistent way. Right. So it just doesn't look real to me. However, I'm going to make up a quote right now.
So something's just occurred to me that I'm going to use. I'm going to write this thing down. What I'm going to write down is that realizing that you're always feeling thought in the moment, the thought goggles you're wearing, is infinitely more valuable than being able to choose which goggles to wear. So I'll just make a note of that. So I'm still educating at the moment, but I'm still feeling connected to Pam, still, checking in and finding out about her world. So I just want to write this up and bear in mind as well as coaching Pam, I'm also teaching a room full of people. And sometimes I'm wanting to give Pam a little rest and that sort of thing.
I'm going to make up a quote and then run out of space.
Now, here's the thing. It just occurred to me to write this thing up. I don't know why. For all I know, I'm waiting for my mind to figure out what to do next because I spend a lot of the session not knowing what's going to happen next. Like I know where I'm headed. Where I'm headed is into a very deep feeling of connection and profound space with my client where it's going to be as easy as possible for them to have the insights and realizations that they need. But I don't know how we're going to get there other than calibration, connection, education. So this is fundamental to the Clarity Coach training model. It's this whole calibration, connection, education piece.
realizing, see, the issue, Pam, isn't that sometimes you feel guilty because sometimes you're wearing guilty goggles. That's not an issue. The issue is that you think there's more to it than that. See, if you knew, I'm just feeling guilty because I'm wearing guilty goggles, whatever, man. You'd be fine. You'd be able to do whatever you want to do. The issue is, you go, oh, I'm feeling guilty. That's telling me about my work and what I'm like and where I am. You think there's more to it than that. Like me, you become a bad Sherlock Holmes. You go, why am I feeling guilty? Ah, I found the solution.
Now, this is so I'm basically hitting the same point again and again and again, that we feel things and we don't realize it's the goggles we're wearing, and we attribute it to other things. We attribute it to the past, to the future, to other people, to our bodies, to our personalities, to our beliefs, to our thinking, to all kinds of things, when actually in any moment we're living in the experience of the principle of thought taking form, creating an experience, and having us experience it as real. And that's always what's going on. And we all get tricked by it. So I really want to kind of ram this point home. So I'm really making the point to Pam.
It's because of this, and it's because of that, and it's because of that. No, it's just because you're wearing guilty goggles sometimes. Sometimes you're wearing connected goggles. Sometimes you're wearing joyful goggles. Sometimes you're wearing sad goggles. Sometimes you're wearing peaceful goggles. Sometimes you're wearing inspired goggles. Now, we don't get to choose, at least not at the level of our personality. Like, who you really are is probably choosing.
Now, remember I mentioned there's basically two things I'm working with people on. One is where their experience is coming from, and the other is who they really are. So this is the first time I've mentioned who you really are to Pam. You know, and when I talk about who you really are, I'm talking about your essence, you know, your true self. You know, some traditions talk about the diamond within, or the soul, or the spirit, or whatever. But it's the aspect of us that isn't our body. It's not your body. It's that sense of being. Now I think of that as consciousness. It's, you know, the consciousness at the core of our being. That's who we really are, the one who's experiencing this stuff. But I'm not getting into that with Pam yet. I'm just mentioning that if anyone's choosing, it's consciousness. But that I don't know how that would work. So I'm just you know, getting that on the table for now.
And who you really are is the source of the goggles and the feelings and everything. So who you really are can certainly choose. But it doesn't really matter what goggles you're wearing. What matters is realizing that your feelings are telling you about thought, not about the things you're looking at or thinking about. And that's a big deal. If you see that for yourself, that changes everything.
So that's kind of a bunch of teaching I've been doing with Pam. Now I want to see what did she hear?
Makes sense.
Now, what did you see that makes sense?
That it's just my perception, not the reality.
Yeah, now what do you mean by that?
So
Once again, I'm calibrating, finding out. So I had said something. She said, it makes sense. So what did you see that makes sense? She said, it's just my perception, not the reality. So I want to find out what she means by that.
it's actually being truthful with myself, because the truth of the matter is, it isn't about that I need to do more work, and that I do deserve to have that time for myself.
Now this is great. Like I didn't say any of that to her. And yet all of a sudden it comes out. She's like, oh, it's about being truthful with myself, or being honest with myself. Uh, and I know, she's saying, I know it's not about working more. It's about knowing I deserve to have this time for myself. So I like this. Like we're on the right track. This is good. I'm feeling really connected with her as well.
So it's just my perception that it's not okay to be doing the other things.
I really like what you said, that you deserve to have time for yourself.
Now, why did I say that? Well, because I really liked it. I heard her say that, and it kind of touched my heart, and it just sounded true and real, and I like, and it wasn't my idea or anything, and it comes straight from her, so I really liked that.
Do you know that? As you sit here right now,
So I want to check that because she said it, and I wanted to check. Do you know that? Do you actually know it?
Logically, yes, but
oh, we've got a different.
So she says logically, yes. So remember earlier she say, well, I know this thing logically, but I don't kind of feel it. There's a gap. So she says logically, yes, but. And so I say we've got a different way of saying that here.
way of saying that here. Here, how we say that is, I don't know that. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to not know that. Can you just tell me that? Sometimes I don't know that I deserve time for myself.
yeah, because often I feel like I don't deserve time for myself.
And I get that.
So sometimes I want people just to, I'll hear them say something, I'll ask them to repeat it, or I'll ask them to say it again, or say it out loud, just because like I want them to kind of hear themselves say it, you know? So she said, sometimes I don't know that I deserve time for myself. Well, that's honest. And again,
Just
I'm
because
feeling
you
really close
sometimes
to her.
feel like you don't deserve it, doesn't mean that you don't deserve it.
And so I just spoke over that bit. So I said to her, just because sometimes you feel that you don't deserve it doesn't mean that you don't deserve it. So again, I'm drawing that distinction between feeling and what she believes, has been believing that the feelings are about.
I know I'm kind of peering at you. Is it okay?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I thought you were.
So I was just checking. So remember, we're sitting here at the front of a large audience. So like if you're watching us, you're watching two people at the front of a room, sitting in silence, me staring at her. And I just it just kind of occurred to me, oh, I'm sitting here in front of a big room full of people, staring at this person, not saying anything, feeling super connected to her. I think it's okay, but I want to let her know that I just want to check in with her, make sure it's okay with her. And it is.
Because I can really feel you. It's nice. Like, you know that feeling of connection and peace that you can feel? That's coming from who you really are. And who you really are is before time and work and matter and all that sort of stuff. It's like the essence of you. And there's not enough work in the world that you could improve who you really are. And there's nothing you could fail to do that would diminish who you really are. Because who you really are is already whole and perfect and complete. Like that's not to say there aren't things we could do to like improve our health or improve our skills or whatever. There's a whole world full of that stuff, but none of that's gonna have one iota of impact on who you really are. Because who you really are, like I can feel, who you really are is kind of sitting back going, yeah, this is all playing out, right?
Now, so what I'm pointing to now is this idea of the true self, and I'm kind of laying it out for Pam. Now, she and I have never talked about this stuff. I don't know how she's going to respond to it, but she seems to be responding well. We're in a really nice feeling. She seems to be seeing something valuable, so I'm just going to run with it. But I check. I check, because it really seems to me that on some level she's doing just great. She's just had a lot on her mind, and it seems to have dropped away now. The job isn't done yet, but it seems to have, really calmed down.
Now the reason I wanted to have you kind of just, like, because you said about being honest. You said, if I'm being honest, I do deserve it. I don't need to do more work. Well, that's why I wanted you to say, I guess I don't know it sometimes or often. That's just being honest. And it's okay to not know something, because if you don't know something, then you could learn it. You could discover it. You could realize it for yourself.
Now, I'm also saying to her, because a lot of times, we've grown up in a world where people tell us, there's huge value in knowing things, which there is, but also there's huge value in having the right answer and understanding things intellectually, even if we don't really get it. So I just kind of give her a different perspective on that. I say, you could, if you don't know something, then that means you could discover it for yourself. So it's okay to not know it. Now, the other thing is, from moment to moment, I don't know what I'm going to say to Pam. I've got, my attention is on having so little on my mind that I'm free to respond to kind of what occurs to me in the moment. And funnily enough, in the training program Pam was on, that's one of the things we put a lot of time into, is helping you develop the ability to do this work with people and have conversations and do coaching and do speaking and that sort of thing without having a lot on your mind, so that you're free to respond to what's showing up in the moment in a way that fits perfectly with who you are. So that's also part of why we're doing this demo, so I can show other people what that looks like, the other people who are on the program. So let's see where we go next. Now, you'll often hear me telling clients to breathe, because what I've found pretty often is that as soon as someone starts feeling something that either they're not used to feeling it, or they've been trying to avoid feeling, or they've been trying to kind of suppress or hold back, they stop breathing to try and clamp it down. Now, when someone has a significant shift that really makes a difference to their life, it's gonna, part of where that shows up is their body. It's their body shifts and changes. So as soon as I feel her hold her breath, I feel it more than see it. I feel it because I'm feeling really connected to her. So as soon as she holds her breath, I start feeling uncomfortable. So I notice it, and I ask
Now
her to keep
breathe.
breathing.
I want you to breathe. Yeah, that's it. I want you to breathe. And what I want to tell you, Pam, is you have every reason to be hopeful. Every reason, because there are a million things in life that you didn't know. And then you realized them. You discovered them. So this is just one more of those. And the good news is, it's already true. Who you really are deserves all the good that's coming your way.
Now, again, I'll often tell people that they have good reason to be hopeful, because what I know is every single one of us, you have the capacity for insight and realization. You have within you what Pam has within her, what I have within me. It's what's creating our experience. So I know it's there, and I know that you can realize it. So I'm just pointing to it, and so say to her, you have every reason to be hopeful.
Now, speak to me. What are you, and it's fine if you're, like, because if I was sitting where you are, I might be having the old kind of, yeah, easy for you to say, pal, or I might be having the old, yeah.
Now here's the interesting thing. I go down this route, and then I've just said something kind of big to her. I've said you have reason to be hopeful, and I've said you deserve all the good that's coming your way. No, I'm not talking about stuff. I'm not talking about money and cars and that sort of thing. So though that would be fine too. What I'm talking about is the peace and joy and love and beauty and insight and realization and possibility and wellness that's coming into her life. And Pam deserves that, because we all deserve that. We all deserve that. Um, so I say this, but then I think, oh, maybe that was a bridge too far. Maybe I've said something that she's kind of going, yeah, whatever. So I just test it out with her.
That's bullshit, mate. Or so where are you at?
So calibration. I ask her, where are you at? And she says, no, what you're saying is
No,
making
what you're saying is
sense.
making sense. And I'm just thinking about how I can absorb what you're saying and actually commit to it.
Now, here's the thing. So, Pam, remember, Pam's already a super successful coach. She's done, millions in revenue. She's very successful, works with business, all this stuff. And part of her strategy for achieving results has been commitment and committing to things and, all that sort of stuff. And so she's now gone back into her head to try and figure out, how am I going to commit to this? But here's the thing, I know commitment, even though that's a top strategy for her, it hasn't been working when it comes to weight and health and that sort of thing. Funnily enough, by the way, notice how little we've talked about weight and health. This is pretty much standard for me when I'm working with a client. I won't talk much about their issue. I change the subject pretty fast, as you've seen, because I know that the one place where they've been massively overthinking it is where they've got that issue or that goal they've been wanting to achieve or whatever. So I want to change the subject so that what they've got going for them can show up in their life, because she's been preoccupied with this, and I can guarantee, even without asking her, she's tried committing over and over again and it hasn't worked. So now she's trying to do that again. So I say, hey, hang on a second.
Well, here's the beautiful thing. I'm going to take one more job off your list. You don't need to absorb it, and you don't need to commit to it. Because here's the thing. I get that you're good at committing to things. But what I would love for you is for you to realize it for yourself and for it to just show up in the most natural and organic and Pam-friendly way in the world, in a way that didn't require you to force yourself or compel yourself or make yourself do it. That you would realize it and it would begin to emerge in a way that's the perfect fit for who you really are. That's exactly right for you.
So once again, I'm wanting, rather than this to be something she does to herself or applies to herself, I want her to find the way that fits beautifully for her. So she's not, implementing any of my 5-step plans or doing strategies or anything like that. She's waking up to the health and well-being that's already there within every human being. So, speaking to you as a clarity coach, that's your job as a clarity coach, is to help create the conditions where the person can wake up and have the insights and realizations that fit perfectly with their life. It's a completely subtractive model. I'm just getting the stuff out of the way that's been getting in the way, so that the intelligence and wisdom and health that's already there on the inside can step more fully into the outside, you could say, and guide a person's life.
I'll tell you a personal story. I dreamed for years of being strong and fit and healthy and eating a healthy diet and all that sort of thing. Every day since I've been in London, I've been going to the gym, I've been lifting weights, I've been doing high-intensity interval training, which is horrible. I've been mostly eating good food, but here's the most interesting bit of all. When I have something that's not so good for me, I get over it. It's like, oh, big deal. In what I used to do, I would commit to myself, okay, I'm never going to eat another biscuit as long as I live. And I wouldn't for like 6 weeks or 7 weeks or 8 weeks. And then someone would have, and they would catch me in a low moment, and they would have one of those massive biscuits, and they'd go, oh, I can't eat all of it, go on, have some. I'd be like, no, okay, I'll have a little bit. I'd have like one mouthful of biscuit. Fuck it, that's blown everything. Well, I may as well eat an entire ice cream store. The power of commitment, okay?
So Pam's laughing, other people in the room are laughing, and all I was doing was drawing a distinction between what I used to do and what I do now, which is much more organic and natural and so on.
So now I just find that, see, it sounds to me like you've already got enough shoulds. The last thing you need is one more. So here's my commitment to you. Going forward, like the thing that you you don't need to absorb what I'm saying. You're going to realize it from within yourself. It's not going to come from me. It's going to come from in you. It's already there.
Yeah, I get that now.
What do you get?
Once again, I calibrate. So I wasn't expecting anything at this point, but I said this thing that the thing she's been looking for, it's already there within her. That health, that wisdom, that capacity for realization, it's already there within her. And she says, I get that now. Well, again, I don't know what she's talking about, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. So I ask, so what do you get?
That it's going to come from me, because one of the really big things earlier was about that I'm not my work. So I'm not about, even serving others or whatever. It is about who I am first.
Yeah.
And I deserve to be me.
Now, I love this. I never said to her, you're not your work. I never said, you deserve to be you or anything like that. She's seen that for herself. And that's the thing I love about clarity coaching. All the things that if we, brainstormed it and said, what should we tell her? What should she know? I didn't tell her any of that stuff. She realized it for herself. She saw it. That's a reflection of the wisdom and intelligence that's there within every human being.
Totally. And not only that, you're here for a reason. And the more you're able to just be you, the more impact and the more service, the more difference you can make to the world. Like, you're the perfect person to be you. You're like, and so you can relax. And that doesn't mean not working or not doing the things that work. It just means relaxing up here. Relaxing up here. Relaxing up there. Like, I tried for many, many years to sort out my health by working really hard up here. And it sometimes worked a bit, but never for long. And since I learned to take it easier up here, the rest of it's all taking care of itself.
So what I'm talking about up here, you hear a lot of people say, oh, just do nothing. Well, in the world of stuff, doing nothing doesn't work. I'm pointing to doing a lot less in your head, like less overthinking, less preoccupation, less stressing, less worrying, less shoulding, just allowing that natural intelligence to take care of what's going on.
So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to pause here. I'm going to take some questions from these guys. You just chill. But we'll check in tomorrow morning, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Just stay here for the moment. So, big round of applause for Pam.
Now, here's the interesting thing. I think it was either the next that afternoon or the next morning. Pam I just checked in with her and said, "How are you doing?" And she gave a really interesting report, which we'll listen to in just a second. But then, because this was, I think, the very first module of the 2017 Clarity Coach training. I would be seeing her a month later. So I did a check-in with her a month later, which we'll watch in a second too, because it's really fascinating to see what has changed. By the way, we're taking enrollments for the Clarity Coach training that's kicking off September 2018. If you want to find out more about that and see if you're a good fit for it, go to jamiesmart.com/coach. Now let's look at the follow-up. So first of all, the one that happens either a couple of hours later or the next day. You'll find out in a sec. And then the one that happened a month later.
I just want to say I feel so light. It's just so unbelievably light. The lightest I've felt in years. It's just amazing. So, thank you. Just feels so light. It's just incredible. That's all I want to keep saying. Thank you, Jamie. Following on from yesterday, last night I couldn't remember what I'd put on the list about what I felt guilty about. But that's a bit odd, because I've got a really good memory. And then this morning I was thinking, what did I put on the list? And I can kind of vaguely remember the first one. And I'm really excited about going to the gym tomorrow. And I have got no idea what I said I used to feel guilty about, because it's just not there in my head anymore. It's like amazing. I feel so light as well. It's just brilliant. Thank you.
And so this is interesting. So the first bit when she was just kept saying, "I just feel so light. I can't believe it. I feel so light." That was that afternoon, the afternoon after we'd done the session. The bit you just heard was the next day because I followed up with her the next day, and she was telling everyone about it. And I often find this that people can't actually remember the thing that they thought was a problem. That's when you know a significant shift has taken place. And then finally, we're going to listen to how it was looking at Pam a month later, and she showed up and she had worn a pair of pants that had fit snugly the month before and were now very loose. So she was kind of showing that off to everyone.
Well, they get the best view from here.
Yeah.
Because look at this.
Nice.
These fit me last time, but they were tight, and now they're very slack. And I need some new trousers. So thank you, Jamie.
Oh, you're very welcome. And, all I did was, as I keep saying, my job is to help create the conditions where my client has the insights and realizations from within them. So while I appreciate the thanks, there's not enough good questions, interesting stories, and warm pats on the shoulder to give someone the insights that will make those changes. It's just not where it comes from. The insights and realizations that have made the difference for Pam showed up from within her.
Now, by the way, this is really interesting. The thing that is the source of your confidence and impact as a coach is in large part the degree to which you see your client's innate capacity for resilience, for realization, for transformation. That is so clear to me. I know my clients already got it. So I'm not thinking about myself or what am I going to do with them or am I good enough or any of that stuff. The thing that's doing the heavy lifting for me is my client's capacity for insight and realization. So that's the thing that I really focus on with folks on the Clarity Coach training is helping them to see your client or the person you're working with or the person you're communicating with. Because the same thing goes not just for clients, but for your colleagues, for your partner, for your children, for your friends, for the people you meet in the shops. It's always that capacity that's there within everyone. That's what transforms life. And that capacity is there within you too. So anyway, to continue.
So what's been going on since that weekend?
So I've been going to the gym every morning at 6:30, and I remember I told you I felt guilty about going to the gym. What's really interesting, I actually can't remember what I told you I felt guilty about because it's not in my head anymore. So I'm going to watch the recording just to see what my misunderstandings were because I can't actually remember. I've shared it with quite a few people.
Well,
It's strange.
Well, we'll probably put the video up because I think it'd be really interesting for people to see, and but what you just said, I can't remember what the misunderstandings were. That's the thing with misunderstanding. Once it clears up, it just looks different.
By the way, so I kept following up with Jan. The last time we followed up, I think, was in, I don't know, March or April, like 6 or 8 months later. The coach training is a 10-month program, so we get plenty of chances to follow up. By the time I last checked in with her, she said she'd lost stones and stones. So she'd lost loads and loads of weight. Not only as a result of this session, but because of the changes it made to her eating habits, her lifestyle, her exercise, and all of that.
So I've got no idea what it was that was in my head before.
And so it sounds like you've been motivated to make changes and all that sort of stuff. Where does that come from? As you think about it, like if someone were to say, "Oh, Pam, how can I replicate what would you say to them?
Just that I deserved to look after my health. Before it was like I didn't feel like I could have the time to go, but now I realise I deserve the time to look after myself. Put my own oxygen mask on first. So, but the biggest thing is not actually feeling guilty while I'm there. It's actually way more level of commitment when I'm at the gym because I'm not preoccupied with other stuff on my mind of where I ought to be instead. So I feel like I'm in the right place at that moment when I'm there.
Beautiful.
So, and it's also had a positive impact in other areas as well, to do more of the things that I really enjoy doing.
Now, this is not unusual. When people have these kind of insights, it often has kind of a knock-on effect. So regularly people will say, well, I got the change I wanted in my, my exercise, for instance, but it also my relationships got better, or my parenting's got better, or I'm enjoying work more. So seeing the truth of this for yourself has a knock-on effect in many, many different areas of life.
Mm. Yeah, good.
Right on.
So
Thank
keep
you.
watching less of me.
Thanks, Pam.
So, like I said, the Clarity Coach training is kicking off in September 2018. We're not actually doing one in 2019. So, this is your last chance to join us until 2020 at the earliest. So, if you'd like to join us or find out if it's a good program for you, head over to jamiesmart.com/coach. You can see all the details there on the page. A bunch of the in-room and live streaming places are already gone, but we've still got space as I record this. So if you want to join me and have not only a bigger impact in your clients' lives, but a truly transformational effect on your own life, I'd love you to join me on the Clarity Coach Training Program. Go to jamiesmart.com/coach. That's jamiesmart.com/coach. Bye.